Welcome, brothers. Today, we're not just flipping through a slide deck or sharing tips. We're diving deep into a journey, a calling, a mindset, a mission. This presentation is about what it truly means to be a him, a high impact man in the world of F3. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't just wake up and go through the motions, but who lives each day with intention, discipline, and fire in his heart. A him is not perfect. He doesn't always have it all together, but he's committed to growth, to impact, and to transformation, not just for himself, but for the men around him, for his family, and for his community. He understands that true strength isn't about muscle alone. It's about character, about purpose, and about service. We'll walk through 7 core qualities of a him, qualities that form the backbone of a life well lived. These aren't theoretical ideas, they are hard earned truths forged in the gloom, proven in the quiet trials of fatherhood and faith, and sharpened in the friction of real world leadership. But more than that, this presentation is an invitation to ask ourselves, am I accelerating or coasting? Am I leading or just managing? Am I showing up when it's easy or when it counts? You'll hear the word impact often today. And it's not a word we toss around lightly. A him is a man whose very presence changes the atmosphere. He shows up and things get better. He speaks and people listen. He leads and others follow, not because of his title, but because of his truth, his tone, and his testimony. We're going to reflect on what that kind of man looks like in action, how he thinks, how he moves, how he sharpens others while staying sharpened himself. We'll reflect on the power of fitness to build discipline, the gift of fellowship to create bonds that don't break, the depth of faith to anchor us through storms, and the necessity of servant leadership to rise above selfishness. As we begin, I encourage each of you to not just hear the words, but to measure your life against them. Let these words be a mirror, not a microscope on others, but a magnifier for your own soul. Where are you strong? Where are you stuck? Where can you step up? Because the world doesn't need more lukewarm men. It needs more hymns. Let's get after it. See you in the gloom. Becoming a hymn in F3. Brothers, let's start with this truth. The hymn is not just a man who shows up. He's not here just to break a sweat, tick a box, or be seen. He shows up with intent. Every time he laces his shoes before dawn, every time he pushes through discomfort, and every time he encourages the man beside him, he's declaring with his actions, I'm here on purpose. The him understands that his life is not an accident. He's been given time, talent, and influence, and he treats all three like sacred responsibilities. He sharpens himself daily through fitness, not because of vanity or ego, but because he knows the discipline of the body unlocks discipline in the mind and spirit. The him trains because he's preparing for real battles, ones that don't happen on pavement, but in the chaos of life, in marriage, in fatherhood, in leadership, in grief, in temptation, and in uncertainty. And make no mistake, he doesn't do this alone. He knows the man who tries to stand alone will eventually fall alone. That's why he builds deep, trust filled bonds in fellowship, with a shield lock that doesn't just work out together, but fights for one another. These are men who speak truth when it's hard, who carry burdens that aren't theirs, and who show up when the world walks away. But perhaps most importantly, the hymn seeks something higher. He's grounded by faith, not always perfectly, but intentionally. He lives in pursuit of truth, humility, gratitude, and service. His faith isn't hollow belief, it's faith in action. He's not just trying to be a good man, he's trying to live out a divine calling to make the world brighter, stronger, and better than it was yesterday. And in doing so, he multiplies impact. Every word he speaks, every rep he completes, every act of kindness, every moment of self restraint, every gesture of leadership, it ripples out. Because when a hymn is present, the atmosphere changes. He's the thermostat, not the thermometer. He doesn't react to the room, he sets the tone. He is a husband who chooses sacrifice over selfishness. He is a father who shows up and leads with love. He is a friend who speaks truth, not just comfort. He is a leader who builds others, not his own platform. So today is not about theory, it's about truth, it's about legacy. As we go through this journey together, I invite each of us, myself included, to ask, where am I accelerating? Where am I coasting? Where am I called to lead and am I answering? Because the world doesn't need more men who drift. It needs more men who decide, who drive forward, who change lives, not someday, but today. That's what it means to become a hymn. Core quality number one, purpose driven. Brothers, this is where the journey of the hymn truly begins with purpose. Every hymn knows that drifting is the default. If we don't actively pursue direction, the world will pull us into distraction, comfort, complacency, and compromise. But the hymn, he's different. He lives with mission. He moves with intent. He speaks with clarity. He wakes up each day knowing that he's not here by accident. There's a reason he was given this body, this mind, this set of challenges, this set of gifts. His life isn't random, it's a commission. This core quality, being purpose driven, is not about hype. It's not about motivational slogans or shallow self help. It's about conviction. The hymn has taken the time to wrestle with his why. He's asked himself hard questions. Why am I here? What is my calling? What hill am I willing to die on? What legacy do I want to leave behind? And once he's found the answers or even a glimpse of them, he organizes his life around that mission. He aligns his actions with his deeper values. That means he doesn't just react to life, he responds with clarity. He doesn't chase applause, he follows principle. He doesn't waste time comparing, he invests time becoming. Because his mission demands it. A hymn doesn't wait for life to hand him opportunities, he creates them through discipline, vision, and service. And when things get hard, and they always do, he doesn't quit. He goes back to the mission. He reminds himself, this is why I began. This is who I am. This is what I fight for. He's the man at work who doesn't just clock in. He leads with integrity when no one is watching. He's the husband who doesn't just survive marriage. He invests in it, shapes it, sacrifices for it. He's the father who doesn't merely provide, but guides, listens, and models purpose. He's the friend who shows up, the brother who holds the line, the stranger who serves without asking for credit. And he lives out what the Q source calls us to. Prepared to disrupt the status quo? That's not a slogan, that's a battle cry. It means the hymn doesn't conform to the world, he challenges it. He doesn't shrink back from uncomfortable truth, he steps into it. He doesn't play it safe, he plays it faithful. In a world that constantly pulls men toward passivity and self preservation, the hymn says, not me, I was made for more. So I ask you, are you living on mission or are you coasting? Are your actions aligned with what matters most, or have you gotten caught in survival mode? This quality, purpose driven, isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to ask the right questions and the resolve to pursue them daily. Because a him who walks in purpose, consistently, humbly, relentlessly, is a man whose life will leave a ripple of impact that stretches far beyond what he sees. Let's be that kind of man. Let's live on purpose every day in every sphere. Core quality number two, physically fit. Brothers, this is where many of us first enter the F3 journey, fitness. But let's be absolutely clear, this is not about vanity. It's not about showing off. And it's definitely not about who runs the fastest or who can do the most Merkins. It's about discipline. It's about resilience. It's about becoming the man your family, your community, and your creator are calling you to be. The hymn recognizes that physical strength is foundational. Why? Because the body is the vessel that carries your mission. If your body breaks down, it impacts everything else: your mindset, your confidence, your energy, and your ability to lead. He doesn't train just to look good, he trains to be ready, ready for the unexpected, ready for the weight of responsibility, ready for the dark days when others are too weak or too afraid to lead. He trains so he can lead. And that training, it's not always glamorous. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it feels like it's not making a difference. But the hymn keeps going. He shows up in the gloom when others are still sleeping. He embraces the grind because he knows that growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens under resistance. He pushes himself, but not for his own glory. He pushes himself so he can pull others forward. That's what separates a him from a guy who's just fit, because this core quality isn't about how many reps you can do. It's about how many men you can lift up through your example. A him doesn't just run faster, he turns back to run alongside the six. He doesn't just lead workouts, he inspires men to change their lives. He knows that when the workout gets hard, it's not just a test of muscle, it's a test of character. Will I keep going when it hurts? Will I encourage the man beside me who's thinking of quitting? Will I model toughness, humility, and consistency? Because here's the truth: a strong man isn't the one who lifts the most weight. A strong man is the one who lifts others. And when the him shows up with physical readiness, when his body is under control, when his health is intact, and when his habits are disciplined, he becomes a man who sets the tone. When in his home, by being present, energetic, and dependable. And at work, by outlasting stress, staying sharp, and modeling consistency. In the gloom, by leading from the front and leaving no man behind. So don't miss this. Fitness is not optional for the him. It is the crucible that forges mental toughness, emotional clarity, and spiritual resolve. And the world doesn't need more men who look strong. It needs more men who are strong inside and out. That's why the him trains. That's why he doesn't skip the hard days. That's why he never leaves a brother behind, because he remembers when he was the six. Let's be that kind of man. Let's train with purpose. Let's sweat with meaning, because iron sharpens iron, but only when it's under pressure. Core quality number three, emotionally resilient. Brothers, let's talk about something that doesn't show up in a mirror, but might be the strongest muscle a him can develop: emotional resilience. Life will test you. Storms will come, not if, but when. Stress will hit you like a freight train. There will be pressure at home, tension at work, loss, failure, temptation, betrayal, silence, and pain. And in those moments, when emotions are raging, when clarity is clouded, when your heart is pounding and your mind is spiraling, the question becomes, who are you under pressure? The him has made the decision long before the storm hits. I will not be controlled by my emotions. I will control my response. He's not cold or numb. He doesn't suppress or deny what he feels, but he knows how to master his emotions, not ignore them, not be ruled by them. He understands that anger, fear, doubt, and sadness are part of the human condition, but he also knows they're terrible leaders. So he lets truth, not emotion, drive his actions. He lets principle, not impulse, guide his steps. He lets character, not circumstance, shape his response. And that takes incredible strength. Not the kind of strength that breaks things, but the kind that holds steady when everything else is falling apart. Emotional resilience means you don't lash out when offended. You don't panic when things don't go your way. You don't crumble when someone criticizes you. You hold the line for yourself and for others. Because here's the truth: people are watching: your kids, your wife, your coworkers, your fellow brothers in the gloom. When life punches you in the face, and it will, they don't just need you to survive, they need you to stand tall, to respond, not react, to breathe when others are yelling, to think when others are spiraling, to anchor when others are drifting. And that kind of resilience, it's forged in moments of humility. Because a hymn knows that resilience is not about pretending to have it all together. It's about being humble enough to admit, I was wrong. I need help. I have room to grow. And yet, he doesn't stay in that place. He moves forward. He takes responsibility. He learns. He adjusts. He grows stronger, not in spite of hardship, but because of it. That's what emotional resilience looks like. It's courage without bravado. It's strength without harshness. It's humility without shame. It's consistency in a world addicted to chaos. And brothers, let's not miss this. This kind of strength transforms lives. A man who leads with emotional steadiness, he brings peace into his home. He builds trust with his team. He creates safety in his friendships. He becomes the calm in someone else's storm. So ask yourself, when the pressure rises, do I rise with it or collapse beneath it? When I'm criticized, do I grow bitter or better? When things fall apart, can I still lead with courage? Because the world doesn't need more emotionally reactive men. It needs emotionally resilient hymns, men who feel deeply but lead wisely. Let's be the kind of men who don't just survive hardship. Let's grow through it. Let's lead through it. Let's serve through it. That's what resilience looks like, and it's who we're called to be. Core quality number 4: spiritually anchored. Brothers, now we come to the core beneath the core, the foundation beneath the foundation, the part of a hymn that can't be measured by push ups, speed, or words. Let's talk about being spiritually anchored. Because if a hymn is only strong in body and will but hollow in spirit, then his leadership is shallow. And when the storms hit, it won't hold. Spiritual anchoring is what roots a man to truth when everything around him shakes. And let's be clear, this isn't about checking a religious box. This isn't about doctrine, denomination, or dogma. This is about connection to something greater than yourself, something eternal, something that gives your life meaning, direction, and depth. The spiritually anchored man lives with the awareness that his life is not his own. He's been given this life as a gift, and he intends to use it with reverence, with integrity, and with mission. He lives for something bigger than himself. That something bigger may be defined by God, by faith, by purpose, by the calling written deep in the marrow of his soul. But what matters most is that he knows, I am not the center of the universe. And that's the most freeing thing I've ever learned, because when a man removes self from the throne, everything starts to change. He begins to pursue truth over comfort. He begins to walk in humility, not pride. He begins to overflow with gratitude, not entitlement. And all of a sudden, his leadership becomes less about control and more about service. His relationships become less about ego and more about presence. His work becomes less about success and more about stewardship. The spiritually anchored him doesn't just believe, he acts. He lives his faith. He walks it out in the mundane, not just the miraculous. It's in how he shows kindness when no one's watching, how he forgives without keeping score, how he chooses truth even when it costs him, how he speaks words that build and bless, not tear down and shame. This man doesn't pretend to be perfect. In fact, the deeper his faith, the more aware he is of his imperfections. But that awareness doesn't paralyze him, it humbles him and fuels his hunger to grow. You see, when a hymn is spiritually anchored, it shows. It shows in the calm he brings to crisis. It shows in the peace he carries through pain. It shows in the way his decisions align with values, not just outcomes. It shows in how he treats people who can't offer him anything in return because he's not living for applause. He's not chasing popularity. He's not aiming to impress. He's aiming to honor God, his family, his brothers, and the purpose etched on his heart. And let me say this, a man without a spiritual anchor might look fine in fair weather, but when the winds rise and the waves crash, he will drift. But the spiritually grounded man, he does not drift. He stands rooted in truth, anchored in love, unmoved by chaos, and propelled by something eternal. So the challenge today is simple but deep. What are you anchored to? Are your roots deep enough to hold in the storm? Or your beliefs visible in your behavior? And are you living a life that reflects not just what you know, but what you believe to your core? Because the world doesn't need more men who preach. It needs more men who live what they proclaim. Let's be those men. Let's lead from a place that's unshakable. Let's anchor deep and rise strong. Quality number 5, servant leader. Brothers, now we arrive at one of the most misunderstood and yet most essential marks of a hymn. He is a servant leader. Let's get one thing clear right out of the gate. Leadership is not about control. It is not about power. It is not about position. Leadership is about sacrifice. It's about going first in selflessness, not first in status. It's about carrying burdens, not chasing titles. It's about putting others ahead of yourself, not because you have to, but because you choose to. The hymn leads not from a throne, but from the front line, not with a spotlight, but with a towel over his arm, ready to serve. He doesn't wait to be asked. He doesn't step up only when it's easy. He leads by example when it's inconvenient, costly, or unseen. When others retreat, he moves forward. When others point fingers, he accepts responsibility. When others demand credit, he deflects glory and elevates the team. Because the hymn understands this unshakable truth. Leadership is not about being the best, it's about making others better. He lives out a mindset of, in I will go second so my brother can go first. Then I will take the harder path so my family can walk in peace, and I will do what is right, not what is easy. Even when no one sees it, he invests in others before himself, and not just with words, but with time, energy, and intentional presence. He listens, he mentors, he encourages the sick, he notices the quiet man in the corner and pulls him in. He finds ways to sharpen, to challenge, to elevate, because he knows that his leadership multiplies when it's no longer about him. This is the exact opposite of how the world trains men to lead. The world says, be loud, be dominant, climb the ladder, protect your brand, win at all costs. But the hymn says, let me lift others. Let me go low so others can rise. Let me build, not break. Let me be a man who leaves people better, not bitter. A servant leader doesn't walk into a room wondering, how will I be served? He walks in asking, whose burden can I lighten? Whose soul can I refresh? Whose purpose can I ignite? He knows that his family doesn't need a king on a throne. They need a man who shows up and loves deeply. His wife doesn't need a dictator. She needs a partner. His kids don't need a perfect dad. They need a present one. His shield lock doesn't need a commander. They need a brother who will lead by example when no one else will. The hymn doesn't demand attention. He earns respect by doing the hard things quietly, consistently, and faithfully. He is last to eat and first to serve. He lifts the weight no one else wants to lift. He leads in the dark when no applause is waiting. This kind of leadership, it's rare, but it's powerful. Because when a man leads like this, he doesn't just change his own story. He changes the atmosphere around him. He creates a ripple of trust, safety, and honor that transforms his family, his workplace, and his community. So here's the question. Are you leading from love or leading from ego? Are you building others or are you building yourself? Are you leaving a legacy of power or a legacy of impact? Because the greatest leaders in history didn't demand loyalty. They earned it through service. And that's exactly what a hymn does every day. Let's be those men. Let's lead from the front with humility, with heart, and with hands ready to serve. Core quality number 6, relationally connected. Brothers, let's pause here because this quality, being relationally connected, is often the most difficult for men and also the most essential. We live in a culture that idolizes independence, a world that tells men to man up, handle it yourself, don't show weakness, don't get too close, don't need anyone. And what has it left us with? Silent men, wounded men, isolated men, men dying in their marriages, drowning in addiction, crushed under stress, alone. But the hymn knows a deeper truth. Lone wolves don't survive long. Isolated men become broken men. Strong men don't stand alone, they stand together. So a hymn intentionally builds what the world has tried to take from him. Real, deep, trust-filled relationships. He's not satisfied with surface level handshakes and empty how you doing. He goes deeper. He seeks out authentic connection with other men who are also on the path to impact. Men who will push him, love him, challenge him, and walk through fire with him. He doesn't just want community, he creates one. He finds, joins, and guards his shield lock, that sacred circle of brothers who lock arms and say, you don't fight alone. Not on my watch. These men don't let him drift. They call him out when he's off track. They lift him up when he falls. They speak truth when he wants comfort. They hold the mirror up and say, you're made for more. And here's the catch. That kind of connection only works when there's vulnerability. And vulnerability is scary because it means admitting you don't have it all together. It means letting others see the cracks in your armor. It means removing the mask you've been wearing for years. But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's strength under control. It's honesty over ego. It's saying, I trust you enough to let you see the real me. The hymn understands this. He can only be sharpened by what he's willing to expose. And he chooses to be known, not just admired. He knows that when men isolate, they stagnate. But when men connect, they accelerate. And that connection, it isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a look across the circle during a hard beatdown. Sometimes it's a quiet text that says, "You doing okay?" Sometimes it's late night tears, early morning prayers, shared burdens, deep laughs, or heavy silence. It's real, it's raw, it's brotherhood, and it's what holds the hymn together when everything else falls apart. So let me ask you, who really knows you? Who's in your shield lock? Who has the right to challenge you, correct you, and call greatness out of you? Church, are you doing life with a band of brothers or just doing reps beside strangers? Because the man who thinks he doesn't need others is the man who's already in danger. Let's be hymns who walk in the light, hymns who bleed, laugh, cry, train, grow, and sharpen together, because iron sharpens iron, but only if the blades are close. Let's stay close. Core quality number 7, accelerating. Brothers, here we come to the 7th core quality of a hymn, and it's not just a trait, it's a way of life. Acceleration. A hymn is not someone who just gets by. He's not someone who peaks in year 1 and coasts for the next decade. He's not someone who says, "I've grown enough," or "I'm good where I'm at." That mindset, that's for men who've stopped living and started existing. But the hymn, he refuses to coast. He refuses to settle. Because deep inside, he knows that comfort is a silent assassin. That complacency is the enemy of purpose. That stagnation is a slow spiritual death. So the hymn keeps moving. He keeps growing. He keeps reaching. He keeps becoming. Not because he's dissatisfied or insecure. No, he moves because he knows he was made for more. More growth, more strength, more wisdom, more presence, more service, more impact. You see, the hymn is driven by a deep desire to maximize the time he's been given. He knows life is short, the clock is ticking, and that means today is a gift, and it must be used wisely. So he accelerates forward in every dimension of life. Mentally, he's not just absorbing information, he's learning how to think clearly, how to lead with discernment, how to make decisions rooted in principle. Spiritually, he doesn't just attend or believe, he cultivates a life of prayer, reflection, humility, and reverence. He seeks to walk with his Creator daily, not just in moments of crisis. Relationally, he doesn't hide from hard conversations. He works at his marriage. He invests in his kids. He builds meaningful friendships. He forgives. He listens. He leads with presence and intentionality. And here's where it gets powerful. As he accelerates, he becomes a whetstone. What's a whetstone? It's not a sword. It's not flashy. It's not the weapon that takes center stage. It's what sharpens the weapon. It's what gives the blade its edge. It's quiet, consistent, gritty, and absolutely essential. That's what a hymn becomes. He doesn't just grow for himself, he grows so he can sharpen others. He speaks into the lives of his brothers. He encourages the man next to him to take the next step. He asks hard questions. He listens deeply. He provides strength and accountability, not from a place of pride, but from a place of purpose. He becomes the man who others say, "When I'm around him, I get sharper. I see more clearly. I feel more alive." Because acceleration is contagious. When one man starts growing with focus and purpose, he awakens the fire in others. So let me ask you straight up, where in your life have you been coasting? What area have you silently declared good enough? What goal or standard have you stopped pursuing because it got uncomfortable? And who are you sharpening right now? And who's sharpening you? Because the hymn knows I may not be where I want to be, but I will not stay where I am. There is more in me, and I will chase it down, and I won't do it alone. I will bring my brothers with me. That's what acceleration looks like. It's not just about speed. It's not about doing more for the sake of being busy. It's about purposeful momentum. It's about becoming better today than you were yesterday and helping others do the same. That's the heartbeat of a hymn, always growing, always stretching, always sharpening, always pressing forward toward the mark, not for comfort, but for calling. Let's be those men. Let's accelerate with fire, with discipline, and with brotherhood. Him in action. Brothers, we've walked through the 7 core qualities, each one powerful on its own. But now we come to the part that matters most: application. Because the hymn is not just an idea, he's not a theory or a checklist or a motivational phrase. The hymn is defined not by what he believes, but by how he lives. He is a man of action. You don't have to guess whether a man is a hymn. You'll know it when you see him walk into the room because the atmosphere changes. He brings light where there's confusion, fire where there's apathy, and direction where there's drift. Let's break it down. Fitness pushes himself and others to be stronger. The hymn doesn't just work out to look good. He trains his body because he knows it's the engine for his mission. He's not interested in coasting through life with low energy and high excuses. He gets up, he grinds, he shows up when it's raining, when it's cold, when it's early, when it's hard, because he knows that a strong body builds a strong mind, and both are required for strong leadership. But here's the thing: he's not in it just for himself. He sees the man next to him who's struggling, and he pulls him forward. He encourages the 6. He celebrates progress. He pushes others toward their best because he knows strength is not meant to be hoarded but shared. Fellowship builds lasting bonds of trust. The hymn doesn't walk alone. He builds deep, lasting, vulnerable relationships with other men who are locked in on the same mission. He finds his shield lock and he fights to keep it strong. He doesn't wear a mask. He doesn't fake it. He allows himself to be known, challenged, corrected, and encouraged because he knows real strength doesn't come from isolation. It comes from brotherhood. And out of that fellowship, he becomes a source of trust, loyalty, and strength for others. He creates a culture where men can be both tough and tender, fierce and faithful. He helps others belong, heal, and grow. Faith lives with purpose beyond himself. The hymn is spiritually anchored. He lives for something far greater than his own gain. He understands that all the strength, skill, and leadership in the world mean nothing if they aren't aligned with a higher purpose. So his actions, words, and decisions reflect his faith, not just in belief, but in behavior. He models integrity. He walks with humility. He speaks with gratitude. He leads with love. He doesn't just attend religious services, he becomes a living testimony, a walking example of what it means to serve something greater than yourself. Impact leaves every man in place better than he found them. And this is the fruit of it all. This is what it looks like when all the other qualities are lived out consistently. The hymn leaves every man and every place better than he found them. He walks into chaos and brings calm. He walks into darkness and brings light. He walks into discouragement and brings hope. He walks into mediocrity and raises the standard. He changes the temperature of the room, not by force, but by presence, not with noise, but with clarity, not to be seen, but to serve. At home, he's not passive, he's present. At work, he's not reactive, he's steady. In the gloom, he's not self serving, He's shoulder to shoulder with his brothers. And in the community, he's not a spectator, he's a servant leader. Because his life is not about attention, it's about intention. It's about legacy. It's about building something that will outlast him. It's about being the kind of man people remember, not because of what he accomplished, but because of how he showed up, how he gave, and how he loved. Final reflection. So let me ask you, as we take this all in, where are your feet currently planted and where do they need to move? Are your actions reflecting the him inside of you? Are you walking in strength, in service, and in faith? Are you showing up when it counts, not for credit, but for purpose? Because the world doesn't need more polished men. It doesn't need more influencers. It doesn't need more noise. It needs more hymns. Men of depth, of courage, of grit, of vision. Men who bring fire but know how to kneel. Or men whose lives are their message. Let's not just know what a hymn is. Let's be him out loud every day in every space we step into. Reflective questions. Brothers, let's slow it down here because this is where the transformation takes root. At this point, it's not instructional, it's invitational. It's not about what we know, it's about who we are becoming. We've just walked through what it means to be a him, a high impact man. We've talked about fitness, fellowship, faith, leadership, accountability, and acceleration. But none of it matters if we don't pause, reflect, and examine our lives. These questions aren't about guilt, they're about growth. They're not meant to shame you, they're meant to sharpen you. They're not here to highlight failure, they're here to fuel the next step forward. Let's walk through them slowly, deliberately, and honestly. One, are you accelerating or coasting right now, today? Are you moving forward with focus or are you drifting? Are you waking up with purpose or just going through the motions? Acceleration doesn't mean burnout. It doesn't mean chaos. It means you're growing in strength, in wisdom, in love, in presence, in purpose. Coasting is the easy path. It's what happens when we get comfortable, when we stop pushing, when we let discipline slip and let mediocrity take the wheel. But remember this, you cannot coast uphill. If you're not climbing, you're sliding. So take an honest inventory. Where have you stopped pressing in? Where are you tolerating mediocrity? Where have you become a passive participant in your own life? Two, who is in your shield lock? Who really knows you? Who's holding you accountable? Who's speaking into your blind spots? Who's checking in when you go quiet? If your answer is no one, that's your next mission. You need a shield lock, not just guys to work out with, but brothers to do life with. Men who will go to war with you, not against you. Men who will challenge you, love you, and lock shields when the arrows fly. You weren't made to walk alone. You were made to link arms and go farther together. If you already have a shield lock, ask yourself, is it deep or is it surface? Are you showing up fully or just partially? Are you truly known or still performing? Three, are you leading with love, truth, and courage? This one cuts deep. Because all of us are leading, whether we realize it or not. You're leading your family, you're leading your friends, you're leading at work, you're leading by how you live, even in silence. But how are you leading? Is it with love, the kind that serves first, listens well, and gives sacrificially? Is it with truth, the kind that speaks clearly even when it's uncomfortable? Is it with courage, the kind that takes risks for what's right, even when the cost is high? Or are you leading from fear, from ego, from self preservation? Remember, leadership isn't about a position, it's about a pattern. You may never have a title, but your life leaves a trail. What kind of trail are you leaving? Four, How are you serving others today? Not next week, not when your schedule clears. Today, right now. Who are you lifting? Who are you checking in on? Who are you mentoring, encouraging, helping, noticing? Service doesn't always look like a big project. Sometimes it's a text, a word, a prayer, a ride, a shared burden. The hymn doesn't wait for an invitation. He looks for an opportunity. He shows up with eyes wide open and a heart ready to act. Or he doesn't say, someone should do something. He says, I'm someone. I'll do something. So, who is waiting on your leadership? Who is within your reach today, physically, emotionally, spiritually? And are you showing up for them? Final challenge, make it personal. These questions aren't rhetorical, they're not theoretical. They are a mirror, a moment to look into your soul and ask, where do I need to realign? What habit needs to end? What fire needs to be stoked? What conversation do I need to initiate? Where have I been waiting when I should be moving? This is where growth begins. This is the holy ground between who you are now and who you are becoming. Don't rush past this. Don't dismiss it. Don't protect your pride at the cost of your future. Lean in, reflect deeply, be honest, because the hymn doesn't just hear truth, he responds to it. Let's sharpen. Final charge. Brothers, here we are at the end of this presentation, but not the end of the journey. This final thoughts are not a conclusion, it's a commission. If everything we've covered up to now was about identifying what a hymn is, this moment is about deciding what a hymn does, starting today and continuing every day after. This is your final charge. Live like a hymn, lead like a hymn, leave a legacy of impact, simple words. But behind them lies a life of grit, intention, discipline, love, and purpose. Let's unpack that charge one line at a time. Live like a hymn. Don't just talk the talk. Don't just wear the shirt. Live it. Live it when it's hard. Live it when no one is watching. Live it in your home, at your job, in your neighborhood, in the gloom. Live like a man whose life is not his own. Live with conviction. Live with vision. Live with presence. Let your schedule reflect your values. Let your words reflect your faith. Let your attitude reflect your mission. Because if the hymn doesn't live it out, who will? Lead like a hymn. You don't need a title. You don't need a stage. You just need a heart that's willing to serve first and stand tall. The hymn leads with love, with truth, with courage, with sacrifice. He doesn't push others down. He lifts them up. He doesn't seek credit. He seeks growth. He doesn't run from responsibility. He steps into it. So look around you, your family, your shield lock, your community, your workplace. That space is your assignment. That circle is your battlefield. Lead there. Because when you lead like a hymn, people thrive. Chaos finds order. Insecurity finds strength. Darkness finds light. Leave a legacy of impact. At the end of your life, what will remain? Not your resume, not your money, not your likes or your status. It will be the impact, the way you made people feel, the way you showed up when others didn't, the seeds you planted in the hearts of men, and the healing you brought to the people around you. That's your legacy. A hymn doesn't just live for today. He lives for 50 years from now. He lives so that generations after him walk stronger because he paved the path with courage and grace. And brothers, if you haven't started yet, start now. And if you've started, go deeper. Let your life preach. Let your strength serve. Let your story inspire. Let your discipline define. Let your impact echo through time. Iron sharpens iron. Let's keep sharpening. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. We need each other. The hymn doesn't sharpen alone. He sharpens through friction, through fellowship, accountability, and truth. So keep showing up, keep locking shields, keep calling each other higher, keep confessing when you fall and recommitting when you rise. Because iron sharpens iron, but only when it's close, when it's intentional, and when it's real. Let's commit to that sharpening for ourselves and for our brothers. Let's build a generation of hymns who change the world, not with noise, but with character. See you in the gloom. We don't say that casually. See you in the gloom is a promise. It means I'm in this with you. It means I'll be there. It means when the darkness comes, I will not retreat. I will rise. So, brothers, as we close, know this: the world is desperate for real men, men of honor, men of courage, men who carry weight and walk with grace, men like you. So let's rise to the call. Let's live it. Let's lead it. Let's leave a mark that cannot be erased. I'll see you in the gloom.